He said, I wish you were all like me, meaning single.
Yeah, right.
So that you're unencumbered, he used the language, so that you're unencumbered with the affairs of this world, with
Right.
the taking care of family and children. And you could give yourself fully and completely to
Right.
ministry.
Right.
But then he said, but each one should abide in the calling wherewith they're called, which meant people are called to marriage,
Yeah,
and
right.
some people aren't called to marriage.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome back to Now That'll Preach. My name is Jared Crowley. I'm your host, sitting across from Pastor David Freck. You guys are new to That'll Preach. Basically, the concept is that we take your questions, your topics, your comments, and we throw them at this guy, ask him to preach a little 5-10 minute sermonette with no prep whatsoever. So.
Yep. All right. Come on, Jesus.
And we just encourage you guys, if you like this kind of content, just like, share, subscribe.
Yeah.
You never know who it might affect, even if it's not where you're at, you never know.
That's true.
So, all right, this one is kind of a goofy one, but I'm hoping we get somewhere interesting with it. I'm believing we'll get somewhere interesting with it.
We'll do our best.
But it was, why didn't Jesus ever get married or have any kids?
That's a good question. You'll have to ask him when you see him. We could presume upon a lot of things.
For sure.
He was obviously raised in a family where he had brothers and sisters. Obviously, his natural mother, his adopted dad with Joseph. It looks like Joseph left the scene early, which would not be uncommon. He was probably quite a bit older than Mary. And the lifespan was, mid to late 30s as a general rule.
Sure.
So I think we can assume, and these are all presumptions. These are just simple presumptions. We would want to maybe have a tendency to over spiritualize it.
For sure. Yeah.
But I think in real terms, Paul probably said it best. Paul said, speaking to the Corinthians and managing the relational dynamics of marriage and children and so on and so forth. He spent a lot of time talking about that. He said, I wish you were all like me, meaning single.
Yeah, right.
So that you're unencumbered, he used the language, so that you're unencumbered with the affairs of this world, with the taking care of family and children. And you could give yourself fully and completely to ministry.
Right.
But then he said, but each one should abide in the calling wherewith they're called, which meant people are called to marriage, and some people aren't called to marriage.
Yeah.
Now, for us, the general rule is we're called to it. The exception is you're not.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's certainly in God's plan. It was certainly by God's design. So there's nothing wrong with marriage.
Yeah.
And by Jesus not marrying didn't mean he condemned it. In fact, the very first miracle he did was at a marriage.
Right.
And so he clearly supported the idea of marriage, certainly believed in the idea of marriage. He talked about it, gave guidelines about it. So it was not a thing that wasn't on register, but in relationship to understanding the shortness of the time that he had to effect what he had to effect in this lifetime, the complexity of adding a marriage to it,
for sure,
and kids to that, was probably secondary to the primary purpose for why he was here.
Sure.
And so I would simply say it was purpose-driven. That it wasn't in God's purpose for him to be married. And there's been some crazy things that have come out, saying how he had children and he was married to Mary Magdalene, and none of that is based on any historical facts at all. There's no historical facts about it, and it would not be supported, I don't think, historically or biblically. And I think for the very reason that I just shared, which is it would have obscured. He said, I've come to do this, to fulfill the will of my Father. I've come to bring salvation to the lost. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to get married.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not here to get married. And knowing everything, he knew his time was short.
Right.
He knew he wouldn't be able to raise his children.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, he knew he wouldn't be able to support a wife, so he might even been compassionate on his part.
Yeah, for sure.
To not get married, to leave behind this this struggle that a wife and children would have with the inevitable death that he was going to face, and not just a simple death, but a criminal's death.
Yeah, right. Definitely. Yeah.
And then having kids and family have to relate to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's I don't know if that's fun, but I think that's a responsible
I think so too,
answer for that.
Right.
And I'm sure there's other people that have other suppositions.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like that's the cleanest and most likely reason.
And I think, like, practically too, I think he represented how to be like a spouse and how to be a father, like well enough, you know what I mean, in the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't think he literally needed a wife and kids to show us.
To model it,
right.
Well, and the idea that we would think, well, you know, he has to model it, otherwise he doesn't know.
Right.
I think, you know, he's God, therefore he does know.
Sure.
But I think that it's, he does. He modeled, hey, if you love, you know, love perfectly, you know, that's going to reflect itself in your marriage. It's going to reflect itself in how you raise your children. His attitude towards children was awesome, obviously. His attitude towards women was dynamic and powerful and life-giving. Well, it was controversial only because he didn't treat them based on the social norms.
Exactly. That's what I mean, like super progressive.
Yeah, exactly. So he would have certainly stirred the pot. But once again, I think that it would have given us a reason to get diverted and distracted from the real reason why he was here.
I think so too.
So ultimately, I think that's your safest and most strongest reason, in my opinion. Like I said, there could be some other opinions out there, but you know, everybody's got one. So there you go.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So when are you getting married? Anytime soon? You want to break any news for anybody?
I'm not. I wish.
Well,
no.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
It'll happen.
That's really personal, Pastor.
I know. We're here to break news.
I'm on a timeline. I'm in a very pointed and particular season of my life that has a purpose.
Christ focus?
Yes, that purpose has nothing to do with any women in any romantic way. So
you know what? God, I love it when young men, young women make the decision, I'm going to let God bring my mate to me.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm going to get close to him. I'm going to let him drive this instead of me driving it and asking him to bless it.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think that's what I did.
Yep.
It's going on 39 years ago with my wife.
There you go.
And I think it's absolutely, not that there's not any other way to do it.
Yeah,
I think it's
a safe way to go about it. Yeah.
I commend you. I think that's the way to do it. So
I appreciate
congratulations
that, man.
on that.
All right. Well, with that, I don't know where to go from there.
And if there's any ladies, no. I'm kidding.
All righty. Well, appreciate you. We appreciate you guys. Once again, if you like this content, like, share, subscribe, get it out there. And we'll see you next week.
Awesome.
That'll preach.
Let's keep preaching.